Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtedar, your host, and today I'm going to talk about the recently concluded direct or indirect talks between Iran and the United States. Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Abbas Arachi met with Steve Witkoff, Donald Trump's. I don't know if it's fair to call him his envoy because he is actually behaving as if he is the Secretary of State. And the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, is behaving as if he is the Dean of Student Affairs at the State Department. But anyway, Steve Witkoff met with Abbas Arachi for a few minutes, and then the Iranians and U.S. Negotiating teams met with the help of the Omani foreign minister for 2.5 hours, and apparently they had at least four exchanges between the two of them, going back and forth. And the goal of this meeting is to basically end Iran's nuclear program and then see what Donald Trump has to offer to Iran in exchange for that. So I'm going to basically summarize what the two parties' positions are. What does Iran want? What does the United States want? What will Israel allow the United States to do? And where we are with this ongoing saga for more than 30 years about the threat of Iran's nuclear weapons. Every new president, that's one of the top agendas. Every time Iran's nuclear weapons, Iran's foreign policy in the Middle East, and so on. Since 1979, this has been one of the top issues in U.S. foreign policy. So I'll talk all about that, but before that, please subscribe to Conversations, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this video with your socio-political network. So, Netanyahu was the first prime minister or head of a government to come to the United States after Donald Trump's Liberation Day announcement. He perhaps came hoping that Donald Trump would also reduce U.S. tariffs on Israel to zero because Israel had reduced its tariffs to essentially zero. But that did not happen. That should have surprised Netanyahu significantly. He was also hoping to hear something about Iran. The United States has already moved a lot of military assets into the region. There are two aircraft carriers within shouting distance of Iran. The U.S. has moved some of its most prominent bombers, B-52 or B-50, whatever they are, supposed to be stealth bombers, which have the capacity to carry the kind of conventional payloads, maybe even tactical nuclear weapons, which can destroy Iran's nuclear facilities, which are buried deep underground. So the U.S. has moved this asset to the base in Diego Garcia, but there are two aircraft carriers in the region. The U.S., I think, clearly has nearly 100,000 forces in and around Iran at the moment. So perhaps the Israeli Prime Minister was expecting a joint announcement of a joint military action against Iran, or even unilateral U.S. military action. But certainly from his face, it was very clear that he did not expect an announcement that within days the U.S. would be negotiating directly with Iran. It's very interesting that the U.S. insists that these are direct negotiations, and the Iranians, they seem to have a lot of reluctance for their domestic purposes to say that they are negotiating with Americans, so they call it an indirect negotiations. And so this is in a third party in Oman, where the foreign minister of Oman is acting as the go-between the two parties. So they met on Saturday, and we have not received any readout from either the White House or the State Department. Of course, there's the State Department, or for that matter, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, apparently, who seems to have no role in American foreign policy except to attack international students. That he sees his portfolio as Secretary of State is international students. He's like the Dean of Student Affairs at the State Department. Whereas the real tough issues like Russia-Ukraine war, or the Middle East conflict, U.S.-Iran relations, all are being handled by Steve Witkoff. So Steve Witkoff was there, and so was Abbas Arachi, Iran's foreign minister. And this is what the United States want. Donald Trump wrote a letter to the Iranian senior leader, supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, that basically says you cannot have nuclear weapons. Let's negotiate, give up your nuclear weapons, and we can make a deal. So, what is really going to work? So, as far as the United States is concerned, the US has a series of demands of Iran. In 2015, when Barack Obama had negotiated the JCPOA, it had essentially limited Iran's progress towards nuclear capabilities. And so Iran's enrichment program was basically stopped at 3.5%. And then when Donald Trump came back a few years later, 2017 or 18, he withdrew from the JCPOA, saying it's not sufficient. He put more pressure on it, on Iran, and put more sanctions. And and now Iran has reached 60% enrichment capabilities. It's rushing towards uh, having a nuclear weapon. So the first thing is that the United States government has been imposing sanctions on Iran, not only demanding that it give up its nuclear program, but also uh, give up its aggressive foreign policy in the region, threatening U.S. allies such as Saudi Arabia, the role that Iran and its proxies play in Syria, the role that they play in Iraq, Hezbollah and Hamas, and their threats to Israel. These are all sources of ick. They undermine U.S. interests and Israel's interest. And when it comes to U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East, it is safe to assume that it's not America first, but it is Israel first, which really determines what U.S. does in the region. So there are no American interests anymore in the Middle East. It's all Israeli interests. What does America? What did Joe Biden want desperately? He wanted an Abrahamic Accords with Saudi Arabia. What does and whose interest does it serve? Israel's. And what does Donald Trump desperately want? He wants an end to the Iranian nuclear weapons, which are seen as a threat to Israel. And he also wants to expand the Abrahamic Accords, which he started in his first term, and that also is to make Israel safe and welcome in the region. So the US has no intrinsic interest in the Middle East because its foreign policy in that part of the world is entirely dictated from Jerusalem. And so the kind of people who actually work on US foreign policy are people who are more friendly to Israel than they are to their own country in the United States. So regardless of the rhetoric about America first, when it comes to the Middle East, is Israel first. So this is what the US wants. The US wants the Iranians to give up its nuclear program. And that's the question, really. What does Donald Trump mean by give up nuclear weapons? Does it want Iran to go back to zero, shut down its entire nuclear facilities, or destroy them, bulldoze them? Like, what does the US want? Those details are not very clear. What Iran could do is put a lock on the lab and then turn it on whenever it wants. The second thing is that obviously it wants Iran to moderate its foreign policy. Now, under Barack Obama's discussions, Iran had agreed to U.S. demands with regards to the nuclear weapons program, but it had not agreed to anything with regards to its ballistic missile program, its conventional capabilities, or its foreign policy. So I think that's a red line for Iran. If the United States says, okay, you have to give up your ballistic missiles program, you have to give up all these drones and the hypersonic missiles that you're doing, you also have to give up your proxies like the Houthis, the Hamases, and the Hezbollahs. I'm not very sure that Iran is going to basically sacrifice all their pawns in this chess game. So what has the United States to offer next? That we won't bomb you? The Iranian economy has suffered a lot because of the U.S. sanctions more than the Iranian regime. It is the Iranian people who have suffered a lot. There are enough studies that have been conducted in the last 30 years that show that sanctions never work. Sanctions have never achieved the policy for which they are designed. They only punish ordinary people. Sanctions against Iraq did not work. Sanctions against Palestine do not work. Sanctions against Hamas do not work. Sanctions against Russia did not work. Sanctions against Iran, they did not work. Yet, we talk about sanctions all the time. This is the go-to instrument because it's the easiest thing that the US can do without risking its own soldiers and without risking a war. And it has serious consequences on whoever the sanctions are. It undermines their economy, slows down their progress. If the Iranian Revolution had not, if the post Iranian Revolution Iran had not adopted a hostile posture towards the West, and had not privileged its ideological goals ahead of the well being of its people, in the last 40 years, with all the natural resources that Iran has, including its brilliant population, I think Iran would have been one of the more developed and advanced countries in Asia. It would be probably like Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, or even definitely better than many of the European countries. So Iran now, with a per capita GDP of around 4 to 5 thousand, is an upper middle income economy, but it suffers a lot. Its population suffers a lot, and it's not able to do justice in pursuit of its ideological goals, both at home and abroad. So Iran really wants relief from sanctions. Sanctions will not only allow Iran to sell its oil and its natural gas all over the world, but also buy technology, buy medicines, engage with the world, become part of the international community. So even with those countries who are friendly to Iran, such as India, Iran is not able to proceed ahead with all the plans that they have with regards to, say, the Chabahar port, which is going to give India connectivity to Central Asia, increase India, Central Asia, Iran trade. India is willing to invest in it, has already committed to about $100 million. But thanks to US sanctions, they have to keep putting a pause on all these developmental goals. So in many ways, Iran's development is retarded because of these sanctions. So Iran desperately wants a relief from these sanctions. So what does it have got to trade? It's the nuclear program. And so it is quite possible that if Donald Trump keeps Israel out of the rubbish discussions and does make it an America first agenda, keeping the denuclearization of Iran as its goal, I think the United States will be more successful because Iran will probably, if you take Ali Khamenei's fatwa seriously, then it means that Iran does not want nuclear weapons, which would be quite stupid, really. I think, given the unreliability of this world, it's better that countries have the capacity to defend themselves from rogue superpowers than not. But nevertheless, Iran can negotiate its nuclear capacity for a better economy and better access to the global economy. So the Iranian foreign minister responded to the 2.5 hours of dialogue that they had with their American counterparts in Oman by saying it was a constructive dialogue, and it was very respectful. This is very important for the Iranians. So they feel as if the West, and especially Americans, don't respect them. So they got a lot of respect. And Steve Witkoff also made a comment saying that the United States is willing to make concessions in order to get a deal with Iran. So those concessions probably will be in regards to sanctions. The problem is that it was Donald Trump who pulled out of the JCPOA. So as far as Iran is concerned, Iran does not trust the United States because it's the US which violated the agreement, not Iran. Even the CIA attested to the fact that Iran had fulfilled all its obligations under the JCPOA in the 2 years of the Obama administration, and subsequently it was Donald Trump who was unhappy with the terms of the JCPOA, and therefore he withdrew, basically under pressure from Israel and Israeli hawks, pro-Israeli hawks, anti-Iran hawks in the United States, who basically want to eliminate Iran as a competitor or as a challenger to anything that Israel wants to do in the region. So from that point of view, I think there is a good chance that what Iran first wants to see is, can the United States be trusted? And the same thing applies to the US. The US does not trust Iran. They feel that Iran was behind October 7 attacks by Hamas. If it wasn't for Iran, Hamas would not be as powerful as it is or it was. And the kind of trouble that Houthis are causing are because of Iran. The weapons that the Houthis have been supplied by Iran. So the US, whether it trusts Iran or not, does see Iran as a malevolent force in the region to US interests and to US allies. So the first goal of the two parties is essentially confidence building, and at least the analysts who have a better understanding of what really went on in Oman, seem to say that at least the first goal of confidence building has sort of been achieved. So they're meeting again next Saturday, and then I think more substantive issues will be discussed, the details about the Iranian plan. And so, for example, we don't even know how far along they are, and so a proper review. So we'll see what happens, whether this goes forward or not. Donald Trump has made many pompous claims about ending the war between Russia and Ukraine within 24 hours. It's nearly 3 months since he became president in February, March, April. Yeah, nearly 3 months. On the 20th of April, it'll be 3 months, 90 days. The war has not ended. There is some progress there. He talked about a lot of things about Gaza. The ceasefire is also not there. Israel broke the ceasefire, is killing people every day, destroying hospitals, children. The violence in Gaza continues. It's not at the level it was when Joe Biden was enabling, facilitating, arming, funding this war of Israel in Gaza. So there is no progress on the Gaza plan. The Arab plan, advanced by the Egyptians and supported by Saudi Arabia and others, there's nothing happening on that front. The U.S. plan to build a wonderful Shangri-La somewhere and move the Palestinians. There we heard a lot of talk about whether it could be in Somalia, in Africa, given that Jordan and Egypt are not willing to take any Palestinian refugees. We haven't heard anything further on that either. Who knows that they're working behind the scenes? Or is the entire foreign policy establishment of Donald Trump busy with the tariffs negotiations? They want to have 90 deals in 90 days because, again, 90 days from now, Donald Trump will be confronted with the possibility of either implementing reciprocal tariffs, which he has suspended, or announcing that, well, we have come to understanding with these countries, and so there will be no reciprocal tariffs on those countries, and so on and so forth. But so far, while U.S.-Iran negotiations are at the earliest of stages, that is where I see more optimism. There seems to be hardly any progress on the Russia-Ukraine front in the past 2 weeks. We heard a lot about there being a ceasefire, but there is no ceasefire. The war continues, and like I said, there is no progress that we can see in Gaza either. But anyway, I wish both the parties all the best and wish them luck. And a U.S.-Iran deal, which essentially moderates Iranian foreign policy and brings Iran into the broader international community's fold, essentially reduces geopolitical temperatures in the region, is good for all. There is no doubt about that. But Iran is also in a much stronger position now, given the fact that it has much closer ties to both Russia and China, and given the pressure that the United States has put on Russia and China. These countries have realized that no matter what happens, the United States needs to be pushed back, and so they are helping each other. So we will see what happens, whether Russia and China continue to back Iran as these negotiations go forward, or will Iran essentially leave the fold of China and Russia and become more closer to the United States and its Abrahamic Accords world as we go forward. So I hope you found this review of the U.S.-Iran relations a bit helpful and beneficial. So please subscribe to Khanversations, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share it with your socio-political network. Until next time, I'm your host, Muqtedar Khan. Take care.